Okay, everyone, welcome back. Hopefully, we're going to get everyone coming back soon. Yeah, that was a series of really great presentations, and I'm sure everyone has a lot of thoughts and ideas and questions coming out of that. So I think what we can do is maybe just a round of a quick introduction, maybe kind of 2 minutes each maximum. You can just say your name, how you're involved with cooperatives, or if you're not, maybe just your interest, and any questions that came up for you during that, or just thoughts. So I can start, although I've already introduced myself. My name is Vesna Drokic. I'm involved with the BC Cooperative Association and the Zagovaramo Zadruge network. And yes, and also the student at St. Mary's University studying the Masters of Management in Cooperatives and Credit Unions. And for me, I think the most exciting ideas that came out of that were the idea for creating a fund for cooperative development, and maybe some linkages for how that can be self-financed by cooperatives in the region, and also how diaspora can contribute to that. And then the second idea I'm most excited about is the kind of a think tank that also connects diaspora support and people like me and Sonia and other folks in the room that are studying or actively involved in cooperatives or business and other areas of support, and how we can create those linkages. So I'm gonna just ask, go kind of from left to right. How about Alexander? Alexander, can you hear us? There.
Yes, I am here, and I watch what's going on. Did I speak on the English or the Serbian language? English, huh?
Yes, English, please.
Okay. My name is Alexander Stoyanovich. I am director Center for Development Local Communities from Kosovska Mitrovica, and last 10 years we are in the sector of agriculture, because we are recognized like a field where we can include a lot of people and find jobs for them, and that's it, our priority. We are built also one building in this veteran, and we have some little mechanization for the people who use that. And also we have some project very important for the community. One of them is reviving the ships on the Kosovo, and to make the network with the export and connection with the market and so on and so on. So for us, we see that like a priority in the next period, and also we are very grateful and interesting to learn something new about cooperatives, and everything what we listened tonight is very valuable for us to change ideas, to change the connections with other parts of the world, and to learn something new. And it's a really great, and this kind of technologies give us that kind of chance. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexander. And if anyone does feel more comfortable to speak in their own language, please go ahead. We'll try to translate everything later. How about Anna?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dnina Drokic. I'm member of a number of cooperatives, and probably that tells also the reason for me to be in them. Maybe I just first mention which ones. First, I joined the ZEF in 2016, which is a cooperative for ethical finance, and Goran is also here, and we'll speak probably later on about it, which is based in Croatia, with the idea to somehow support, although not in Serbia, where I'm based, to support the development of ethical finance and cooperative finance in the region. So that is the first cooperative that I joined. Then in 2019, I became director of a housing cooperative, Pametnija Zgrada, based in Belgrade, Serbia, with the idea to initiate a new model of cooperative housing in Serbia, which is non-for-profit and collectively owned housing, which differs with the model of cooperatives we are used to have here in Serbia and in the region, which was more like privately owned in the end. And that cooperative has been established in 2019. And in the beginning of 2019 and the end of 2019, I have been one of the co-founders of energy cooperative Elektropionir based in Belgrade as well, with the idea to decentralize and bring citizens into production of energy. And since 2020, I'm also a member of MOBA, which is a European Cooperative Society registered in Croatia, but actually connecting 5 countries, Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Hungary, and Czech Republic. And this European Cooperative Society is there to actually, one of its reasons for its existence is to create a fund for this new type of cooperative housing development in the region, and find finance actually and stimulate these projects to start up in all of our countries. And yeah, I'm like type 2 kind of person, or type 2 cooperative from Sonja's description, basically interested in setting a stage for new forms of cooperatives, which also are fitting the times in which we live, and also trying to, let's say, modernize idea of cooperatives in our region.
Thank you, Anna. Goran?
Okay, I'm here again. So yeah, my name is Goran Jeras. Similar to Anna, I'm also a member or involved in a number of cooperatives. But my major function is within ZEF, a Cooperative for Ethical Finance, Zadruga za etično financiranje in Croatia, where I am now 8 years the manager of the cooperative. We are doing several things. Our main focus is setting up a new bank, a new cooperative-owned bank. After several attempts to do it in Croatia, we also heard previously in discussions that it is not possible legally to have cooperative bank in Serbia. The similar thing is in Croatia and most of the EU countries, unfortunately, as well. However, we wanted to have a bank which is registered as a shareholders company, Dioničko društvo, which is the only legal option available in many countries. But this shareholders company should be 100% owned by a cooperative society. So that's the workaround how we wanted to actually transfer cooperative principles to a banking institution that would then finance and support development of sustainable cooperative-based economy in the communities where we should operate. In the meantime, since we are now 8 years busy with the foundation of the bank, and we are in the process of acquiring the license in Lithuania. While Lithuania is a bit a longer story, but it is the country with the most flexible and innovative central bank regulator in Europe, one of the at least. In the meantime, in order to make some economic activity by the cooperative and to support our members, we are involved in provision of various services to our members. So we are providing accountancy services, specialized to provide accountancy services for cooperatives. We are supporting legally and also with education and all other mechanisms to create new cooperatives in Croatia of various kinds. We are also developing internal market where cooperative members are able to offer products and services to other cooperative members under preferential prices, also through a web shop that we operate. We also have some mutual investments where we present and collect funding from cooperative members for projects of other members. Generally, we are trying also to provide consulting and the extension of value chains where we find members that have compatible businesses and then help them to establish collaboration in order to offer the products of higher value or to get better positioned on the market than they would be individually. So that's in a nutshell about the operations. Maybe just a final word. I really strongly believe that the whole ecosystem of that starts from financial institution and finances, but also then involves different services like incubators, what Sonia was also mentioning, legal teams, what Iva was also mentioning, and all other aspects that understand and are willing to support the cooperative system. And cooperatives is really essential to develop the cooperatives further. And I also strongly believe that cooperative model is one of the very compatible implementations of alternative economy that could help us to achieve sustainability and environmental goals that we are all lacking now at the moment. So the world really needs alternative business models, and cooperatives definitely could be very important part of the solution for today's economic problems and social problems.
Thank you, Goran. Can I call on Vesna to introduce herself?
Yeah, hello.
A dear friend.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Eva. My name is Vesna, and I am originally from Kosovo, Pristina. I was born and raised there, and I moved to Canada for studies in university, and I am now living in Canada, in Montreal. I am currently, yeah, Sonia, hi, we live in the same city. Yeah, so I have been an active participant in the co-op community for a while. I went to a few conferences and volunteered for the Association for Co-op Research, the Co-op Association for Studies in Cooperation, which I believe Sonia was also a part of at one point. And then I also volunteered for Co-op Radio, and I am now currently working at Sustainability Solutions Group, which is a worker cooperative based remotely all over Canada, and I do business development for them. And essentially what SSG Sustainability Solutions Group does is create climate action plans for cities and governments to respond to the climate crisis. So I think it's a really cool example of a worker co-op that is both values aligned and that is, you know, a consultant company that is a worker cooperative, which is actively fighting for the environment and for better working conditions for consultants in this field. The reason I came here is because I'm from Kosovo and because I'm friends with Eva and because I would like to see what's going on in the Balkans. I don't really have a sense of what the cooperative sector looks like in the Balkans. And even though I visit every summer, I don't really know anyone in Kosovo who is involved in any of this. So I would really like to be able to learn more about what's going on and how I could get involved and how I could use the information and the resources that I have from Canada to help out more in my own country and to yeah, possibly get some sort of community around that going if it doesn't exist already, and just research more about what's going on. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Vesta. Yeah, I'm excited that you're able to join us, and I feel like we have a good representation from a number of different countries, and also some people that couldn't join us today from Bosnia as well. So we're trying our best to get knowledge sharing happening across the region as well. There's a few folks that I know might be listening more, but I invite anyone who wants to also introduce themselves can just unmute yourselves or share your camera if you wish as well.
Hi guys, my name is Dina. I come from the Coalition for Solidarity Economy Development, and I'm really happy I got this invitation. Of course, Anna shared it with me since we started or restarted our cooperation last year in a way. But I want to say that I'm in this field of social and solidarity economy for almost 10 years in Serbia and in the region, but mostly researching the topic of social enterprises as such, especially this perspective, as Sonia was also mentioning, the European vision and definition of social enterprises and social economy. But our focus is mainly on research and especially working in the field of advocacy. We try to bring the regulatory framework to be more supportive for first the social enterprises, but we open up the window of all other social and solidarity economy actors as such. So we approach it from the perspective to build a more favorable ecosystem for all these initiatives. My background is in research, so I'm quite aware of how this movement started in the Balkans, especially in the 90s, how we now talk more about cooperatives, why we talk about the cooperatives. But since we have representatives of new co-ops in Serbia, I wouldn't speak about it, but I'm curious about this, how we can make these initiatives more citizens engaged, in a way, how to make citizens more engaged in this kind of initiatives, including cooperatives, even opting for cooperatives, even knowing that there is even bad reputation of cooperatives in our region. But I'm curious to see, can we make decision makers more interested in this topic and make more favorable legal and strategic frameworks so we can invest more in these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. I'm excited you're joining us. Maybe if you could share a link to the coalition website, if you have one in the chat. But yeah, I think you touched on some of the key points, like how do cooperatives in the region cooperate more? What advocacy is needed? What other systems as well to connect with what's happening in other countries too. I know Bojana and Ivana are still here. If either of you want to introduce yourselves before we get started, the floor is yours. Yay, Bojana. Go ahead.
Oh, I feel underqualified.
You're qualified in other ways.
Definitely qualified in other ways. So I'm Bojan Novakovic. Actually, I'm the coordinator of the campaign against Rio Tinto here called March se brine. I actually have a question that maybe can be addressed in later conversation. I'm very interested to understand two things: the possibility of co-op development in Serbia at all, but the possibility of co-op development in in farming areas that are at the same time developing, I guess, tactics to scare away corporate developers. So I'm really interested in understanding whether there is a way to coexist with like a battle against something while building something. And I know that that's, neither of those things bears any guarantees, but I'd be interested in that. And then the other thing that I'm really interested in knowing, again for Serbia, because this is where I am, is given the new threat of GMO, like Serbia did such a great job of deterring any GMO, but of course the threat is there again and it'll probably keep coming. Is there any legal avenue for co-op development in an effort to once again deter GMOs from being introduced into the country? So
Yeah,
Ciao.
I am very excited that you're here because you're involved with a lot of citizens movements, for example, and I know we've talked a lot about what does the cooperative structure maybe offer in terms of maybe permanence or resourcing some of these resistance against, for example, things that are threatening people's ways of life. I think, Diane, you talked about preserving a way of life for people. Maybe Sonia also talked about that. I'm not sure. There was a lot of great information, but I think that this is something very important, especially when a lot of different external, very powerful actors are also wanting to play a role in the region as well. So yeah, thinking about what role can cooperatives play in that?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about actors more powerful than the government of Serbia. So yes, very powerful. Okay, thanks.
And Ivana, do you want to introduce yourself? If not, that is very okay. I think we can jump into just into conversation. Yeah, there's definitely, yeah, actually, sorry, Sonia and Dan, if you want to say anything after each other's presentation and after introductions, feel free.
No, I just want to add something about co-ops and where they live. So I work at the university, in the economics department, but I'm also in the International Center for Co-op Management. And how that came to be was that a group of cooperatives got together and figured out that management education is just not good enough, that they got new, people into managerial positions who graduated from MBAs, the Masters in Business Administration, and who didn't know how to run a cooperative. And so it was the co-ops who decided to pull in cooperative movements in Canada, United States, and UK at the time. And they created a cooperative called CMAC, Co-op Management Education Co-op. And this co-op approached the university to offer a program for managers in cooperatives. And this is how we came to existence, right? So this program really is cooperative driven and cooperative funded in the beginning. It was cooperative funded. Now it's self-financed through tuition payments by students. But all of our students are people who work or live in co-ops, right? So you need to have a cooperative that serves as a place of your study. So you study your own organization and you do business degree online from this program. So what I want to say is that co-ops had to push it. You don't sit and wait for universities to think of a program for you, but you need to kind of push and recognize what is needed and then figure out ways to actually get in there. And universities can use definitely some cooperative education everywhere. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one level of what we've been, I think, talking about is what can we already do together, and perhaps that's what we can focus on in the next hour or so of discussion. We have people here from many different countries, living in many different countries, in all sectors, so housing, worker cooperatives, consumer cooperatives, cooperative associations, research, people in all regions representing, yeah, I think coming to this conversation from different angles. So my excitement with having this particular group here is that I think together we do have the resources to achieve all of the things that we mentioned. So, a fund for cooperative development, connections with the global diaspora, cooperative schools, and building the capacity of people in the co-op sector. So I think we even have some folks here, for example, Peter, who is involved in media too, which also plays an important role in education as well. So I think we have all the perspectives and people in this room or involved in the ZAZA network more broadly to make some of this happen. So yeah, I'm hoping we can start to make some decisions and some plans for moving forward. So I think then if we're going to jump right into the conversation, we should probably talk about the kind of 3 key themes of this conference that came out of all of the previous years' research and conversation. And those are financing, number 1, was always the number 1 theme. Number 2 is development supports. What development supports do co-ops need? And number 3 is that networking question. What networking, what can we do right now? Like, what are some first steps that we can do for networking? So would anyone have any perspectives to share on those 3 kind of themes? Maybe Dan, I know that your number 1 idea is the fund. So do you want to maybe, did you hear anything that anyone said that was interesting to you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because network is unstable. I'm not sure. Can you see me or hear me? Everything that I heard is excellent. Serbia grandfathers provide us with a place in the cooperative history, very high place, but it's on us to provide a good place in the future of cooperatives, and this kind of communication help us very much. First of all, I didn't present myself to others, so I will just say quickly that I came from civil sector. I work, I think, since 2002. It's almost 20 years, more than 70 projects. I see myself as a social innovator, and I fall in love in cooperatives in 2017 when I became a director of the first agricultural social cooperative in Serbia. Being first in some areas in Serbia especially is like an ice-breaking job. You need to prove and provide and talk with everybody, and it's extremely difficult. The subject of funds, first of all, in your regional approach, you must know that we have different laws. As we saw in Croatia, something is available, in our country is not. Unfortunately, there is no good law. Law could be good in one part, but in other can be bad. In this way, law of for cooperatives in Serbia is excellent, since it is a product of more than 120 years of tradition. So I think it's very good. But in this specific Article 12, where in the context of special care of our state and provinces and local self-governments should provide us with funds for development of cooperatives, and this is not the case. So we focus ourselves in providing these legal opportunities, but we are alone in this advocacy process in front of the public sector. Only few cooperative associations are involved, and our strength is not big. So we are more focused on practice and try to show practical results to them, analyze them, sending materials, inform them, no matter if they want to be informed, we inform everybody what we are doing. And sometimes there are some results. Concerning funds, there are also Italian experiences in taking, I don't know, property. I don't know, this fund we feel also from cooperatives. Also, can be filmed from the local governments, which have cooperatives on their territory. But after a few years of advocating this process, I think that we need to change our platform and to make other strategy for a public sector, because they are inert and they don't respond to our requests. There is a large number of cooperatives in Serbia, many thousands of them. So I'm not sure that I have information that somebody explicitly working on GMO or something like this. But I know some cooperatives that are start cleaning rivers and start working on I don't know, public spaces. In the framework of making a better living condition for young people in rural areas. So I don't know, did I respond to questions, but I'm here, so you can ask anything from the field. Let me just finish with the sentence that we need, first of all, we are on the field, me and Nicole, and we meet many cooperatives, and the first request is for running capital, working capital. These are the biggest problem, because in many thousands of cooperatives, there is a low liquidity level. So this is a problem for entering the market.
So Dan and the group, I have a question in the chat. If we're to think about, for example, financial resources for cooperatives, and Goran, I know that this is a kind of central to your work too. Who should be the administrative body for a fund like this? Is there bodies that already exist, like the Cooperative Union of Southern Serbia? Or is it something that we need to think of how, like, what body do we need to create in order to allow for some kind of democratic distribution of funds? And yeah, I'm curious to hear perspectives, because a number of you are involved in financing such, like those structures. And some of us might be interested in like investing in those too. So I'm curious, all perspectives. Goran?
Yes, I would say that theoretically, even though one of the cooperative principles is autonomy from the government, from the politics, I think that actually many successful cooperative movements in countries like Italy, which was mentioned several times, or France or Switzerland, have very deep roots, and they are very much supported by especially local but also national governments, and the whole infrastructure that has been developing for years is there in place. And the part of the success is existence of that infrastructure. If you look on the other side, countries in the Balkan region, I think we all share the same problem. After the fall of socialism, after a breakup of Yugoslavia, there was almost uniform one common denominator to all countries that went out of the Yugoslavia, was a very aggressive promotion of the economic individualism. So we just had the privatization, which was one of the major sources of economical injustice on all of the countries, with the newly formed elite who overnight has taken over factories that were self-managed, that actually belonged not to the state but to the workers, to the people there. The cooperatives had this fall in also in economic activity and the reputation, where they came at least in Croatia, but I suppose it's not much different in the other countries. also to some kind of the perception as old-fashioned and related to communism or socialism, and something which does not have the place in the modern economical system. And nowadays, if you look also the major narrative of our political elites, the economic development should be based on innovation, on startups, of brilliant individuals with beautiful ideas that are then leading economical perspectives of our countries forward, which doesn't make any sense. Nobody actually offers answer for a very simple question. Okay, maybe, I don't know, 1 or 5% of people have the capacity to individually run their business, or access to capital, or just have luck to succeed in what we are doing. But can this be a solution for the rest of 95 or 99% of the people? And I think that unfortunately at this moment in the whole region, we are more or less with maybe some exceptions, like in Serbia. I'm really glad to hear that there is some official support from the government to the cooperatives. But generally, I still doubted that this support is on the level how it should be, or how it is in countries with much more developed cooperative systems. And at this point, we are mostly dependent on each other who believe in that system. And at first, we need to organize and gather together and try to create our own structures that would help us and support us. I think that one of the cooperative principles, which at least in our region is used the least, is cooperate with the cooperatives, cooperation among cooperatives. I think that the cooperatives that exist even still are much more focused on their own daily survival than on the collaboration and creation of the joint structures with other cooperatives. And that maybe should be the focus of the work in the beginning. If in Serbia there are 3,000 cooperatives, and I don't know, maybe 1,200, if I remember correctly, is the number of those that are regularly submitting their financial reports. I could imagine that at least some of them, maybe half, or maybe, I don't know, even 60-70% have some kind of the small, but are profitable on some level. And if they would be putting 10% of that profit aside to create a common mutual fund for financial support to each other, then they would have also much stronger voice and strength to advocate and to ask for other partners, other collaborators, being that international cooperatives or individual supporters from diaspora, or even government, to double or triple that amount, or to actually help with filling in that fund. So I think we should focus initially on creating such structures, both on the regional, national, but also international level. In Croatia, the trend has been negative. Actually, just a few years ago, our cooperative association, National Cooperative Association, was dismissed, abolished, and it was integrated to the Ministry of Economy. And then within the ministry, very quickly, within a year or 2 years, they lost the status of individual how you call it, section of the ministry, so department of the ministry. So now there is only, I don't know, 1 or 2 people with the role to support cooperatives, but without any kind of the formal political or economical voice. So that was so we now need actually to really reinvent the wheel from the beginning in creating cooperative structures. Our cooperative ZEF is one attempt in that. We have around 30 or 40 cooperatives as our members, but it is still far from what is needed to have a stronger voice and to start developing infrastructure that could actually support the whole system. So I think that's the way. First, we need to, we who believe in cooperatives need to gather together and start creating those structures. And then we would be stronger, and we'll also have stronger advocacy potential to go further on.
Yeah, that's that's quite sad that that happened. But I think in the same way, there's also here in Canada too, some provincial associations that have certain role, but then there's also kind of the way in which cooperatives just network on their own to fill in the gaps in the space. So I know that some other people are also part of different kinds of networking. For example, what Sonia mentioned about the CMEC is another form of cooperative networking to create like a master's level management program for training people to work at cooperatives. So yeah, I would be curious to hear, you know, we have already some organizations that exist, some government ministries that exist. Is there something missing that we need to be working on, or we need to form some other kinds of organizations, especially maybe to tap into also like diaspora resources? Because I think that's, and maybe that's more like my personal curiosity to hear. But yeah, what infrastructure do we need right now in the co-op system?
Question to me?
I think question to everyone, but if you want to respond, then.
Okay, but there are also between nations, but also regional disparities. Since the southern Serbia region, these 5 governments, regional governments that is covered by our cooperative union is a less developed area with 210 active cooperatives, which are out of which, I don't know, 5 to 7% is exporting or doing high level business, but all others could be put in the I don't know, a range of few thousand euros per year. Everything is new. We are in a hyper production of cooperatives, which doesn't mean that we have a quality at the same time, because people entering in cooperation because of traditional reasons, because of we know all the rules, everything is written there, rules of the game, so people find their legal stability and security in cooperative way, but unfortunately only maybe 5 to 7% of them can give some 10% in this legal in this fund. And to create fund, we need to make a study how will be the structure of the fund, how this fund will be will operate, who will be in charge. I am for this that our cooperative unions should also have voice in this fund, because if we let only economists and bankers to be asked whom to give money, we will be in the same position to give money for this 5 to 7% of extra good cooperatives. So in this way, this social moment will be lost for investing. And at the same time, this fund needs to be put in the right position concerning the private public sector, concerning all the other players in the field, with arranged relationships. There is a legal possibility, for example, to take money from local governments, also from the ministries and from the national government, but nobody used this opportunity. So also, as I mentioned in the first, my talking is that we need to learn from each other, of course, and there is a need for exchanging good practice and to see what is working. Croatia, what can work in South Serbia, on Kosovo, and everywhere. So this is it for now.
Yeah, when we spoke last week, we talked about you know, sometimes there's need for scale, you know, there's benefit to collecting kind of the resources of the whole region across countries, but then there's also the necessity of regional specificity, right? The specific local challenges that maybe are best addressed by an association that's regionally based. And then there's kind of this missing middle piece of what is this organization that supports the whole, you know, is there benefit also to sharing that funding and those resources across the whole region? I have a question maybe directed more to those that are involved in some smaller cooperatives or startup cooperatives. So Anna and Alexander that I can think of in this group. From your perspectives, thinking about what resources your cooperatives need or you need as cooperators, we're talking about kind of a fund, we're talking about connecting to resources and development supports. But from your perspective, what would be important to you in something like that? Alexander, do you want to?
Yeah, okay, I wait to Anna say something, but okay, doesn't matter. Well, first of all, to say somebody has asked before, how is the situation on the Kosovo with cooperative? On the end of the 80s and the beginning of 90s, agricultural system is a totally breakdown. And many people, even today on the Kosovo, in the central Serbia, situation is much better with this process of agro cooperative and develop of agro cooperative. But on the Kosovo, most dominant is a private sector. Exist a couple cooperative and a few news who are on the beginning of the process. But even before a couple of years, when I spoke with USAID, USAID is a huge donor on the Kosovo. Their attitude was, we don't support agro cooperative, we support just private sector, because this kind of who is the owner in the agro cooperative. For them, that question was like if you have some common property and we don't know who is the owner of that cooperative, we don't support that kind of process. So today is a little bit different situation, and we have, I don't know, government of Serbia here in the Kosovo, in the Pristina, some developed agency from Switzerland, Austria. They are ready to help that kind of cooperatives, maybe to give them some kind of investment in the machines, but more or less this process on the Kosovo is still on the beginning, and that kind of conscience exists between people in the central Serbia, in the Vojvodina, is a different situation. So what we're doing now, we for some projects we ask to find some donors and to start some kind of to make beginning of investment cyclus. For that, for us, that is important, to give some kind of donation to the people and to start the circle of work with them, and that's it, our idea.
Maybe I can say a few words about a fund which I was mentioning before, briefly. So 5 cooperatives which are involved in setting up a new model of housing cooperatives in the region, in the wider region, have started to work together since 2017. And we have developed let's say, a common way of working. Also, ZEF is involved in this. So there are, so let's say the organization is organized in such a way that there are 5 cooperatives which work locally, and then there are so far 3 support organizations that work with us. And this started as an informal network, and in 2020 we decided to formalize this and establish European Cooperative Society. And this is an interesting model because it allows for basically it is a cooperative which is international with shareholders, and it's a cooperative of cooperatives. One of the limitations in Serbia is that only individuals can be members of a cooperative, which makes a trouble for a number of reasons. For instance, as I'm also a member of an energy cooperative, we could, for instance, collaborate with an apartment building that would like to install solar on their roof, but that is not possible. So this is one of possibilities of this form of European Cooperative Society, which makes a possibility for us as an organization to be member of an international cooperative. And now what is interesting is that we have been, each of our members of this, let's say, smaller cooperatives, local ones, have been looking for ways of financing, and in the previous years have come to usually to know from commercial banks. We have, even with Goran, we went 2 years ago to Vienna to talk to Erste Bank, to headquarters for their social investment part. And they were a little bit ready and made by now some kind of opening door for cooperatives, but it's all half-hearted and halfway. So when we decided to make up this fund within the MOBA European Cooperative Society, the idea was to open the door collectively. So not anymore go as individual organizations and knock on doors of these organizations, but actually do it together. And how we started is that our first, let's say, support came from established housing cooperatives from Switzerland. So we got first, actually in the form of donation, support to start the fund and actually give first loans. First 2 small loans were given this year within the organization. But what we hope for is to grow this into, let's say, a larger fund where these are the natural first partners, but actually we hope to attract interest also of European Union and interest in, let's say, figuring out finance for housing is growing because there is a huge pressure on the housing market, and a lot of people drop out basically from the possibilities that market offers. And there is a need to find the ways to finance these kind of citizens-led initiatives in a different way. So hopefully, let's say on a longer term, this would develop into that direction. And meanwhile, we have received recently a grant, which would help us actually to map out possibilities of finance for housing cooperatives, non-for-profit, community-led housing cooperatives. And I hope with that we will also open doors to various kinds. And I think in the first hand, really ethical banks and cooperative banks, unfortunately not yet from our part of Europe, but probably then from Italy or from Switzerland, where these forms are already established and are well functioning. And I think that it would be interesting to think how this diaspora possibility maybe can be tested, maybe on a small test, like the case that we are doing now, started with 30,000 Swiss francs, could be tested also with MOBA. And MOBA, of course, I didn't explain, but who knows Serbo-Serbian Croatian understand the word MOBA as the tradition of mobilizing together, and really comes from that, which started from villages of people working together to help each other to work on the field or finish each other's house or collect fruits, etc. So in that spirit, that's the spirit of the organization also.
I love that. I love the tying back to like the culture of cooperation, which Sonia alluded to in the presentation. It's very strong, I think, traditionally among all of our peoples. Now I lost my train of thought. but Anna, it was to do with something that you mentioned about, oh my gosh, okay, totally forgot what I was going to say, but yes, so this problem of not being able to kind of form an official association, we discussed, I believe also with Alexander, the possibility of trialing something. So if we were going to trial some form of, maybe the closest thing that we can get to an association where we can participate in it, maybe it's not formally a cooperative, is actually this idea of a fund. So we can have certain outlines of, okay, this is how we make decisions together about how this fund is used. And these are all the key stakeholders. Maybe it's the co-ops in the region, it's the organizations, it's diaspora members that are donating through that fund. Although that may not be formally possible to incorporate as a cooperative, sometimes like you can also just practice cooperation without being legally incorporated in that sense. And I think that's what a lot of us have been doing. So I like the idea of trialing something. So whether it's to support one particular project for the beginning or trialing a certain kind of a model, it seems like that's the way to go forward, is we just have to start doing something like that. And it seems like we have some of the infrastructure to begin.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that that is our principle, because we don't have a perfect organization and perfect way to do it. But basically by trialing, we are developing a system. And except the fund, we also have made our internal grant scheme. So there is an organization, World Habitat, which is an organization which supports community-led housing across the world. And they have, for instance, decided to donate 15,000 pounds. And then we, together with them, define the principles, how this money is to be distributed to the members, how we evaluate projects, how we report, and develop from that further on.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the question of moving forward, I definitely see the idea of starting something, like maybe just using existing infrastructure. Actually, I would like to ask maybe Goran and Dan, who you've also been thinking a lot about this idea, kind of what we should consider in terms of practicalities or actually trying something like this. Goran, you just posted in the chat about crowd investment. Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around what this could look like practically.
No, I was just saying that actually there are currently tools that could be helpful for trying something. For example, this AmpNet, the last link that I sent, this is a member of ZEF, so the company, it's software development company that's member of ZEF. And they have developed the crowd investment platform, which originally was intended to be used by energy cooperatives, so that people could fundraise through cooperative model, I don't know, solar panels or wind farms or any kind of the energy production tools. But nowadays they have expanded it so it could be used for fundraising any kind of the project or institution, and it is very compatible with what we are talking today, because it also uses European Cooperative Society as a legal model behind the fund, behind the crowd investment. So basically everybody who wants to invest becomes the member of European Cooperative Society. The whole process is digitalized, so there is a banking grade verification of the identities with making a photos of documents and comparing it with the video of your face, so that actually they really identify anybody who wants to become the member. And the whole management of investments in a way, who has put how much money and what is expected in return is managed by that platform. So it is almost plug and play. It is just a matter of promotion and defining the subject of the investment. There are also more complex models. I still think that the banking institution that we are setting up is something which is very much needed, and we are currently, since we have expanded the business model not to be tied only to Croatia but to the whole Europe, we also have members from and are accepting members from all EU countries, but also out of EU. There are almost no restrictions from where members can become part of this initiative. Having such an institution would really help, because then anybody could become a client of a bank, and just without becoming a client, it actually supports the mission of the bank, which is development of the sustainable and cooperative-based economical system. So it is something which lowers barrier, actually gives access to much wider group of people, because you do not need to invest. You just need to use the banking services of a bank, which is using its assets to support other cooperatives. And there are, of course, other models, informal or formal. As I said, existing cooperative networks can still use, they can just open a separate bank account and check with the tax authorities how donations are treated, or could it be also tax benefits for those who are donating or investing into cooperatives, and then finance the whole process. So actually we have a range of tools. AmpNet is a very good one, because it is digitalizing and automatizing the process, but I think it is more of a good promotion and setting a good target, what could be the useful first step as a pilot to start doing that process.
That's amazing. I am very excited to hear about AmpNet, and as Sonia mentioned, it's very cool that they kind of designed this with cooperatives in mind.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I just want to kind of confirm that. I think it's really important that this is the vetting process, as I was suggesting, right? So if there are a cooperative, there is democratic governance for the members. How can you be involved? What transparency is about? I'll go dig up the information. So that kind of layer of trust, I think is important, and that we can then promote it. We can then, share the information and make sure that we actually know enough to have people trust in this particular platform to actually send the money. So this is, I think, really good. I like that. And that investors don't have a voice would be good too. I mean, so we need to see how it all works. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think at this point, probably it's a good idea to define, like, this is what we want to achieve out of this. This is the kind of platform we're looking for, and yeah, I'll need to look into AmpNet more and other options. But I think we're at the point where we can think about yeah, what are the actual requirements for this, I guess, test version of the investment platform or fund or whatever it's going to be, and then think amongst ourselves also, how do we actually co-manage this democratically? Who are the stakeholders? So maybe defining, like, what this actually looks like in practice and in cooperative practice, I guess, is the way to put it. So it sounds like maybe we have, like, a bit of an idea of how to move forward on this question of financing or starting a fund as like a minimal version. And then the other question I have, I'm personally very interested in, how do we how do we fundraise now? Who do we connect with? And I believe that really the diaspora is a good resource because we're all living in countries that I guess the value of our currency is a little bit higher. So, and most of us make maybe more money here in the diaspora that could be really useful. So my question is, what are some different ways that this can be promoted and to build trust with the diaspora? Yeah, does anyone have any ideas? Yes, Dan.
Okay, this depends directly on the programs that we're going to offer, about the quality of our projects. So if we want to solve some questions concerning gender or woman, like Nicola said, woman in cooperatives, starting from the woman on the as a director to the expert that is employed, woman expert in production process, or it is a woman from disadvantaged group that is seasonally engaged in cooperatives. We have many ways to deal with the gender issues and to support through some kind of program education of women and maybe better support or some kind of I don't know, some kind of added value for employing this personnel. If we want to make our cooperative sector younger, then we need to think about the programs such as subventions for employment of young people in cooperatives. This is something that we test in Serbia in 2018 when we educate a few young people and employ them on different positions in cooperative sector. Also, there is a possibility to pay interest for some money. Like I think I mentioned that Unicredit Bank in Serbia is preparing 30 million euros of funds that will be softer than commercial credits. And since the European Investment Bank is involved in this credit arrangement, European Bank will cover collateral part of the credit. So there is also one additional obligation that is known for now, is that we need to provide some kind of social impact in local community, which is easy to provide by the cooperatives. So this kind of money could be unlocked if, for example, this fund will pay a part of interest. It will unlock for the huge number of small cooperatives. Also, the money could be used as a revolving. For example, we could give money to cooperative for working capital, and then it will be this money will be give back to the fund, and the fund could give it to other cooperatives. Also, in diaspora, there are people from different regions. I mean, many of us have different memories on cooperatives. Somebody has from a realistic period, somebody has from communist period, but at the end, the cooperatives are reserved for citizens and the citizens' business engagement for last 150 years. So this is a good legal guarantee. Also, our ethical codex is a guarantee. So I don't know. Probably the campaign should be defined depending on the target groups, and there are people interested in agriculture, in organic production. There are people interested in housing, in energy. So depending on this, we could collect money on different kinds of issues. Thank you.
I feel like I've been talking too much. Does anybody else have any ideas to contribute? I think what we're talking about is like a platform essentially. So there's a lot of different actors on a platform like this. So, you know, you have the investors. We have to think about what that looks like for them. What would they invest in? As Dan said, maybe there's certain things that if someone is really interested in supporting, you know, the rights of women in the workplace, for example, or economic development for youth, they might want to look at projects that are directly related to that, or they might have different interests in mind. So I can see there being a need for some kind of discovery process, like interviewing people to actually understand what some of their interests would be and how we can promote this to them most effectively. And then I think the other side of the platform is, of course, there would be the administrative group, which would be maybe this is some kind of steering committee for that fund, to think about how do we make decisions. And then there's, of course, the kind of recipient end. How do we determine which projects are ready to accept funding, which are good investments right now? How do we equip projects, co-op startups to be ready for funding, for example? And how do we also promote the opportunity to them? So I think with every platform, there's many stakeholders and many questions. So I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but yeah, I think at this stage, maybe it's worth to kind of put all those questions on paper and start to get more in detail what we think something like this could look like and what existing models are out there. Because of course, if someone's already done this, it's good to follow in their footsteps if it's worked well. So perhaps this is kind of a takeaway for me is what's the next steps in terms of research, discovery, interviews with people to find out like what the details are of this. But yeah, as we're kind of coming to near the end of our time, maybe we can also think of just takeaways from the conversation for you, from your perspective. What's most exciting moving forward, and any challenges you think we should think about. Okay, now I will put people on the spot. How about Alexander?
Hello. Well, we are quite new. Honestly, I more expect to on this question give the answer somebody who has more experience, maybe like a Goran or Dejan, because they already they have much more experience in the organizing the system, and I'm very grateful tonight to her how they working, because we are just on the beginning and they are a couple of steps away from us, and but okay, I agree with you. There can be some kind of platform, and to make some kind of also rules. I already sent you some examples before for that kind of institutions who already work. So, but one of just to say, a situation on the Kosovo and the rest of the Serbia and the other part of the Balkan is a little bit different. And because last 20 years there was a place with the conflict, and we are past to the transition, and now situation is much better than it was before. But also we need that kind of people here. There exists some kind of international organization. So I'm sure they can help us in this process of donation or something like that. like I don't know, Canadian Ministry for Affairs or something like that, or maybe we can speak also with some kind of strong donation organization from the world. Because if you ask me how I see situation, are people here who lives in the village, they don't have that kind of strong donation, even with the central government or the local, simply people, they don't have information on the field. And maybe our job, they can be to that kind of platform, they can be connection between bigger donors, and also to include in networking and this kind of model who already exist, like Goran in Croatia or Dan. For us, that's it valuable if it's the necessary in some phase, and go there and see. We have for this kind of project, we have the system, and what we want to make implementation and with market and that kind of things, we are already develop and get right information. But for this kind of growth funding, we really don't have experience too much, and even that kind of connection with the international organization, they can be valuable for us.
Just a quick question to Alexander: is US aid still involved with in projects in the region?
Yes, it is. It is, but how to tell you? Sometimes they have some kind of their assessments, and they have their strategy and they point of view. It's not in cooperation with the needs from the simple people on the needs. That kind of there exists disproportion between what we need on the field and what donors expect in some kind of global issue or something like that.
Okay, thanks.
Let me just add to Alexander that and Sonia that I think another 5 days, and there is one project of USAID regional project right now that could involve Balkan states, Western Balkan states, Moldavia, Ukraine, Georgia, and some other states. They will give 5 to 7 large grants, and it is expected to have 50% of own contribution, out of which 5% is in cash. So those kind of opportunities we need to search for, because simply a cooperative system offers a great social impact and very diverse social impact. Our research from last year showed that on 5 employed people in a cooperative, we have 3 to 5 times more occasionally engaged personnel from different endangered groups as cooperants, or as engaged in 5 months of seasonal works in agriculture, for example. So we can offer to these donors a greater social impact, to find women in rural areas from very triply endangered group. How will I tell you? But also to reach young people in rural areas, and to make opportunities for economical inclusion of them. So there are many donors, such as OAK Foundation, that is interested in women issues and gender issues. We could offer them rural women, very tough group of women in 50 years old, 60 years old, which lost everything during the transition. We could also offer young women or young people in rural area, Roma people. We can offer them everything. also depending on the programs, we can have many different programs. So we lack this knowledge about projects. This is also what Alexander, I think, pointed, that we don't know project language. We know the needs, but we cannot explain these needs to donors. This is our problem. And something that cannot be translated is što je južnije, to je tužnije. And please try to.
Sadder? Is that not quite? I think you're very right about, there's kind of this problem of presentation or maybe capacity also for projects, maybe also struggle to represent themselves to donors. It's very hard for a small group, like a starting co-op, to set up, full donation page and everything. So maybe there's a need to create some kind of support, like a person, or train a group of maybe youth in the region to support projects with writing maybe like a short description, title, getting photos, kind of describing about this problem that they're solving in a way that someone reading from diaspora would read and say, oh, I really want to support this project because I can see that it's going to contribute to this and this. And I think it ties into other kinds of development supports that cooperatives need. For example, even some people, when they invest, really want to see like a business plan. They want to see what's going to come of this in 3 to 5 years, for example. So maybe for now, the first kind of important things are the help to just describe the project and maybe take some photos of it. People like to see, I think, photos. So we could, when trialing with 1 or 2 projects, just think about what are these simple things that that the support that is needed to actually make something ready to put on a donation platform. That's another thing to consider. So I think maybe since we're kind of a small group now, and I think we're pretty excited about moving forward in this direction. If we can talk about kind of the next steps or what we see as a process for moving forward, it would be great to hear from everyone who is willing to participate, just what you see your personal role in supporting this. I see, of course, like a big role for myself and for the ZAZA group as enthusiastic supporters of the project. But yeah, I would be curious to hear from everyone here representing many different projects and organizations, what you see as the takeaways from this conversation. I will start with maybe Anna. Change the order a little bit. Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry, there have been so many things said. There is a lot to take. One of the things which you mentioned in the very beginning was to also spend some time here in the region for you who are not from here. So I think that it would be really great if you or maybe some other people from ZAZA network would spend really some time here, and if we would have a, let's say, opportunity to meet in person and develop this together. So I think that would really bring a different level to the whole thing. I have to say that for me, I'm involved in so many things that it's really difficult to dedicate time to a lot of time, but sometimes, yes, for some kind of feedback or being in some kind of a discussion group, but not really working on this seriously because, I mean, as I mentioned, I'm a member of so many things that I really cannot even cover that enough in the amount of time that I should. So I'm thinking how we can maybe even find some resources for this to take ground, because I think it's nice to do it volunteer also for you, but you cannot carry on this for a very long time in this manner. So maybe the first donation should be actually to develop the platform and not for the project itself. So to develop a platform and the way of working so that this can, let's say, have a stable ground and not depend on entirely on volunteer contribution of people.
That's a very good point. And also what I'm hoping to hear from everyone too is, you know, how much can you personally contribute to this? I think realistically, your perspective is most important as someone involved in cooperative projects. You know, even just something like this, hearing what are your priorities, what are your needs, to inform how does a fund support those projects as well. So yeah, I definitely agree with the need to pursue some kind of funding for, yeah, we're talking about developing at least some kind of infrastructure, whether that's using an existing platform or developing like the organizational system, the promotion, that's all resources and time. So I agree, like we can think of, I know that there's some funds that I can, for example, access through being in Canada, but then there's also some funds I can't access because I don't live in the region, and funds in the region, I think we'll need to partner, find some partnerships to do it that way as well. I'm gonna call on Bojan. I'm very curious to hear what you think.
Well, it's interesting because everyone who I've spoken to here is very pessimistic about, I'm not gonna lie, has been like, every time that I mention co-ops in the villages and stuff, everyone's like, oh, we don't have laws that support that anymore. They're very aware, like they're even more aware of co-ops than like the hipsters in New York, you know, who are all co-op friendly, but and incredibly like co-op literate. But I think I need to talk further with my Serbian cohorts about stuff, because I remember, Eva, even when we first spoke, there was like, you were also met with a lot of problematic examples of like US funding coming in to try to do co-ops here, and then like certain people taking the money, and you know, particularly like, so I mean, I'm talking all over the place because this is something I really don't know much about. So I'm just like really, I feel really uneducated in this, and I think I just listened a lot and I have more questions than comments, but I am really inspired by the co-op literacy within the villages. Like, it is a thing here, it's just that the more south the sadder. What was that?
Что южнее, что тужнее.
Oh boy. So I'm excited to keep in touch and all that kind of stuff, and help, like, not help, but support any facilitation or support these ideas. It's definitely not something that like I feel confident in my knowledge of, but listening to you guys, it's like it feels like everything else in Serbia. It's possible. It's just this government has really done a number on the laws, you know, and how they make any kind of self-efficiency or collective efficiency possible. But it is possible, and that's good. Does anyone have anything to say? Why are you
I'm laughing about što južnije to tužnije because Italians would agree, but then they have the mafia in the south. So maybe, you know.
We have the mafia. We have the mafia everywhere. We have the mafia in office. We are definitely.
You know, there is a code. There is a code there. You know, social tight social networks. So, you know, so maybe that's what we need to put into use. But
yeah, I don't disagree.
My question is to ZEF. So can ZEF be the vehicle for co-op development in the region? If you in Serbia are a member of ZEF, and you know what's the story there? Because ZEF seems to be quite knowledgeable and quite savvy in accessing the platforms and understanding what's going on. Could that be the vehicle? Could we all be members of ZEF and you know, and go through there? So Goran, please enlighten us.
Yeah, Goran.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have, I would say here that maybe we have a problem of legacy in that way of starting really as a Croatian national cooperative. Which means that it would be quite a change of the legal structure, the governance, the perception of existing members of being now transformed to a regional cooperative. I think it's also bringing legal challenges because then all people who are becoming members by Croatian law would need to get Croatian tax numbers, which is not a difficult procedure, but still requires some work at the Croatian tax authorities and the documents, etc., which I think would at the end pose more problems than just solutions looking at the ZEF as a cooperative. However, structures like European cooperative societies, especially now after the experience that we have in making digitalize the whole process of application for membership in the European cooperative societies, and also we have now in Croatia the MOBA was the first one formed 2 years ago. Now we have kind of 7 or 8, I think, registered in Croatia. All of them are also trying to do some kind of the fundraising to become fundraising tools for some purposes. So I think that especially also looking now in the strategy that ZEF has taken to expand out of the borders, but also not as an organization, but through collaboration with European partners to form this common financial institution licensed in Lithuania, because we were also not successful with our own central bank. I think that ZEF as existing organization is maybe not the most efficient option and would actually pose a lot of problems, some of which I have mentioned now in thinking aloud. But we can definitely use the experience that we had with also experimenting with other forms and expanding on the broader region. First through with MOBA, through dedicated to the fundraising instrument for housing cooperatives in several countries in the region, but now also through other European cooperative societies. I think that might be a model, and it might be a better model, because it would not then have this legacy of ZEF, which would also then require to existing members to accept the vision that we are discussing or starting to creating today. And then in that process we could provide the support and knowledge and experience that we had up to now. I think it is a good way. I think that actually this form of the European Cooperative Society has proven to be quite useful already, even though it's also not perfect. For example, we wanted to have this European Cooperative Society as a form also for our banking project. So we wanted to have European Cooperative Society being the owner of the bank in Lithuania. However, in Lithuania, it is similar, like in former Yugoslavia, that cooperatives are not, modern cooperatives are not actually very well established. They are also perceived as some kind of the Soviet socialist communist concept, which doesn't have place in modern Europe. So even though European Cooperative Society should be the same in all EU countries, because it was as a concept established by European Commission's directive, at the end, in practice, we got advice from Lithuanian people, lawyers, that we could have more problems than benefits of having that model there. So at the end, we decided to go for a joint structure, which is in a form of a limited liability company, but governed by fair shares company principles. I also shared the link in the chat. Fair shares company is actually the internal act of the statute of classic company, so limited liability or shareholders company, which has the internal act which transforms it into a cooperative compliant structure. So it is verified by International Cooperative Alliance to be compatible. And this fair shares model, actually we used it because we realized that in practice in Lithuania we would have also more problems with cooperative society than we would like to have. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest ZEF, but I think that the ZEF, the networks, ZEF's network provide a set of tools and the knowledge and experience that has been applied for different contexts already, and could be applied here as well. And in that regard, we can provide that support, even though similarly as Anna, yeah, we are already very, very stretched. So the capacity is limited here. But yeah, of course, if we see that there is a credible team and especially also what Anna mentioned, some kind of the budget that allows all of us to move forward with the concept that we have been discussing today, we are very willing to support it fully.
Bojan, go ahead.
I have a question about this. So, hang on, I'll lower my hand. So, Gorana, you'll have to come back. So the European Cooperative Society is part of the internal market industry entrepreneurships of the European Union, right? Which is DG GROW. Is that what you're talking about, the European Commission?
European Cooperative Society is a legal form. So it is a legal form of economic association, similar like Dioničko društvo or
yeah, but you have to be. It has to be started in an EU member country.
It needs to be established. It needs to have a headquarters in an EU member country, but it doesn't have restriction in membership of the members out of the EU countries. So we need to have at least 2 members from 2 different countries. So it can have both private individuals and legal entities. It needs to have either 5 individual members, either 2 legal entities as founding members from 2 different EU countries. That's like a baseline. But next to that, there could be members from any other country. There are no restrictions to it, and those members then participate in the governance as it is then prescribed with the statute of the European Cooperative Society.
Okay, so what are options for countries that aren't part of the EU, apart from having to partner up with someone who is in the EU?
We have very good experience in setting it up in Croatia, partially because it was new. The MOBA was the first European Cooperative Society set up here, and we made some kind of the example, role model how it is done. And actually, it turned out to be much more flexible than, for example, setting it up in Germany or Austria, because in Germany and Austria they had much more European cooperative societies, and they have linked them very tightly with their existing cooperative systems, so with their national cooperative associations, etc. which are very conservative to some regard. So they were offering less flexibility in designing internal statutes than we had it here in Croatia. So, for example, having it registered here in Croatia as a headquarters seems to be a good solution for the region, because, yeah, as I said, we have now 7 examples of very useful cooperative societies that could then operate in the region.
Additional advantage of Croatia was because we did a study in the MOBA, 4 countries are members of EU and Serbia is not. So in these 4, we checked advantages in each country. And one of the important things which made us decide was that in Croatia, cooperatives can be non-for-profits. And that was one of the conditions that we had in mind.
Yes, and but maybe just to follow up on that, this non-profit status turns out in some examples to be quite beneficial for donors, because then for example, there are donors that have restrictions that they cannot give donations to for-profit entities, and being not-for-profit then expands a list of potential donors that can give money to the European Cooperative Society. But in Croatia, it's an option, so you can choose: do you want to have European Cooperative Society as a for-profit or not-for-profit entity? And that's good, because then depending on your strategy and the business plan, you can choose what is the best that suits the model.
So it sounds like there's a lot of work already put into figuring out what's the best possible model within our limitations now. So yeah, I think, Goran, as you mentioned, maybe ZEF is not the particular model that we use, but within your network, there's a lot of already kind of different models that exist, and different partners that you've been working with that I think we can start to kind of connect with to see like which specific platform or organizational model do we use for this system. Yeah, so I think since we kind of have like 10 minutes left. Oh yes, Anna, go ahead.
I wanted to ask something. When we speak about this, I would find it exciting if it is a platform, if it's a regional thing, if it's not like dedicated to one thing. And just wanted to check with you, how do you feel about that? And do you think that that would be attractive for diaspora? Because diaspora is connecting somehow to their country, and now we are speaking about the region. So how would that sound to? Maybe it would, for some people, would sound super, and for the others would sound, oh no, I don't want to be part of something cross-border.
This is probably part of like a research process, what we ask people. My sense is that among younger people, we're more interested in regional support. For example, a lot of us are also, have family in different countries. Like my family's from Serbia, Croatia, and Montenegro mostly. So, it's weird for me to choose like, oh, I just want to support Serbia. And it would be great if there was a fund for all of it. Some people maybe are specifically interested in their own region because maybe they come from, like, I come from a specific town or village in Serbia and I want to support my home region. So I think this is maybe the question of who are the administrative bodies within this kind of fund that decide how it gets distributed. And to what extent do diaspora members want to specifically choose like, oh, I really want to support just this project or just projects within this region or just projects that support women. Maybe there's different kind of ways that fund can be like sliced up, for example. This is just my personal perspective, but I think I would be curious to do some research and interviewing the diaspora that I know here to see like what they think of that. And I know that Bojana, like you're connected in Australia and New York. and lots of regions. So I'm sure there's going to be different responses all over the place. So yeah, it's a complicated kind of idea, but I think there's a way forward for it. So I think just in the last few minutes of the conference, I want to just mention something that I kept forgetting to mention in all the previous co-op Kathici, and that is that we should stay connected, and I'm sure we will, but we created a page on our website that I hope we can maybe use a bit more. I'll share the screen. It's called, if you go to the website of Zagovaramo Zadruge and go to Mreža, we're kind of creating like this database of people that are involved in cooperatives in any shape or form, or in parallel kind of movements. So Bojana, a lot of what you do is not specifically within cooperatives, but I'm so excited you're here because your work is very parallel. It's very aligned. So I think this is a good way of just keeping track of everyone's involvements, and as we kind of plan specific ways to move forward, I'm hoping to create kind of a sub page here that will be like specific to a project. So this can be like a working website, and I'll share a link in the chat. So I hope everyone will remember, please, to sign up, just like fill out this here. And then you can look through like people, projects, themes, just to create kind of that initial database. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget to do that. And then on my end, I will follow up with the recording of the meeting, and there's a lot of next steps and takeaways from this meeting, I think. So I'll just do that kind of in an email. And I wanted to mention that there was a lot of people that we've been working with that weren't able to make it today, but that are also very involved in, for example, cooperative education in Serbia and research in the region too. So I think that all of them will be very excited to hear what we're doing, and I'm sure we'll kind of meet up in more tactical groups to start developing more on this idea in the future. So that's all for me. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And yeah, I'm really excited to have had everyone in the room together today. And I'll leave the meeting open. We can keep talking if we want to. But that's officially the end of our first ever conference.
Wow, bravo.
Thanks.
Hvala na svemu, ja vas napuštam i nadam se da neće biti zadnji put da se vidimo.
Sljedeći put se vidimo negdje tamo.
Da, negdje drugdje, da.
Možda će biti kao tour, like a bus tour.
Pa ja ti kažem, mi posjete zadrugama moramo organizirati. Imamo dobre zadruge sa vinima u Hrvatskoj. Odakle se kreće. Maslinovo ulje i vino, tu startamo, a onda dalje.
I u Srbiji ajbar.
Može, a MOBA je registrovana
u Sloveniji ima dobrog ajvara. Slovenci su prvi patentirali ajvar. Samo da se razume.
Jel da?
To bi me ubili ovi iz Leskovca da čuju da kažem, ali tako je.
Eto, super. Onda moramo neku turu organizirati. Radimo na tome. Važi. Ajde, pozdrav svima.
Ok, hvala.
Ćao.
Ćao.
Ćao, hvala.